Over the past few weeks, the Pac-12 has made headlines as they struggle to find a suitable television deal, with theirs set to expire in 2024. The schools of the Pac-12 are looking for a deal that would have a payout in the mid-30 millions. This has left many feeling the conference is in trouble and may be left behind regarding the other power conferences. But that may not be the real case, and there's another conference that may be in even more trouble. That conference is the ACC, whose schools are set to make $17 million a year through 2036. This has left the conference's two powers, Clemson and Florida State, unhappy and may lead to Florida State leaving the conference. While this may sound insane, let me explain. Florida State has been one of the top programs in the ACC over the past few decades and is one of the biggest brands in college football. Last summer, the Noles had preliminary discussions with the SEC and Big Ten about jumping to their conferences according to Noles Game Day, with the schools fearing they will suffer from the significant revenue gap left by the television contracts. Back in February, Athletic Director Michael Alford made the first public case for the Seminoles to find a new conference during a general board meeting with the FSU Board of Trustees, which included President Richard McCullough. Sports Illustrated Dustin Lewis writes, while presenting to the BOT, Alford explained that Florida State draws 70% more viewers than the average ACC school and ranks number 14 in the nation in viewership from 2014 to 2022, which doesn't include the ACC network. 17 games during that period drew above 4 million viewers, including 3 in 2022. The Seminoles' victory against LSU brought in 7.6 million viewers, the third most viewed Sunday night football game on record for ABC. The rivalry win on Black Friday against Florida, which he affectionately referred to as the other school in the middle of the state, brought in nearly 7 million viewers and was the highest rated game on the day after Thanksgiving since 2011 and the most watched game on that since 2005. According to Alford, FSU and Clemson represent 51% of the all 4 million plus viewership games in the ACC from 2014 to 2022. The two ACC powers are the big draws for the conference. As things stand, and represent a fourth of the viewership for the conference, will only receive 7% of the revenue from the television agreement. Florida State has done all this viewership while also being down as a team up until last season. Alford wants the conference to create a revenue distribution model saying who you are, how you produce, how you play, and what your brand is. But this will not solve all the problems Florida State and the conference will be dealing with. The revenue gap the SEC and Big Ten will have compared to the ACC is huge. Under the current television contract that was signed back in 2016, ACC schools will be receiving $17 million a year. The SEC schools will receive $51 million per year through 2034, while the Big Ten schools will receive $67 million a year through 2030, with the numbers expected to only get bigger when those deals are renegotiated. The Big 12 just signed a deal that will pay out $32 million a year per school through 2031, while the current Pac-12 deal pays each school $20 million a year and is currently being negotiated as a bigger contract. The ACC conference is in a really bad spot and signed a bad deal back in 2016 that runs through 2036, and it could hamper the success of some of their biggest programs. According to Alford, distribution per members for the new media deals for the Big Ten are $80 million and SEC are $72 million, far outweigh what Florida State is bringing in year after year. When the Seminoles throw everything in, they receive roughly $42 million in their current revenue distribution with the ACC. Alford explained, right now, when you throw everything in, we receive about $42 million. That would put us literally $30 million behind our competitors and peers across the country. That's $30 million every year as this contract runs until 2036. Remember, some of them, the other conferences, go to market again, so that number is going to get even bigger. Right now, the program's athletic revenue, outside of payouts from the ACC, would rank third in the SEC and third in the Big Ten. So what would it cost them to leave the ACC? Well, according to bylaws, at this point, that means the price would be roughly $120 million. Alford stated that Florida State would break even about years of paying the fee, which is due at the time of the exit of the conference. The issue is not the cost of leaving the conference, it's its grant of rights issues. David Hale from ESPN explains, it's a contractual agreement that each team has made with the ACC through the year 2036 that essentially says the ACC owns our media rights until that time. So, Florida State could leave. They just couldn't earn any media income. They wouldn't be able to broadcast games if the ACC didn't want them to. That essentially makes them not valuable to any other league. Why would the SEC or Big Ten want Florida State if their games can't be on TV? Hale went on to say the process would be painful for Florida State or others to get out of the ACC and the grantor rights. There would be legal battles as the ACC would be holding out on letting anyone leave the conference. A quick exit fee would just be the beginning for Alfred and the Seminoles. On ESPN's side, why would they renegotiate the ACC television contract? If you are ESPN, you would want to figure a way to get teams like Clemson and Florida State to the SEC because it would be more eyeballs for them, even though they would have the rights to the ACC as well. Shoot, I would not be surprised if ESPN helps the likes of Clemson and Florida State get out of their ACC deal to join the SEC and maybe offer a little bonus to the ACC schools for letting them do it. Let's just say there will be a lot of lawyers involved and all these schools have access to a lot of different lawyers. This is also different compared to the Texas-Oklahoma leaving the Big 12 to the SEC because the television rights for the Big 12 are through Fox, who would not want to help their rival ESPN. Back in 2012, Bleacher Report released an article talking about whether Florida State should stay in the ACC back then or move to the SEC. In the article, they talked about how Florida State did not fit the conference then, as the additions of Pittsburgh and Syracuse showed the ACC was more focused on becoming a basketball-centric conference rather than a football-centric conference. Florida State is a football powerhouse and not much as a basketball school. They fit the SEC more than they fit the ACC. The school is located in the middle of the SEC footprint that is full of passionate football fans. It would be easier for fans to travel to away games when compared to the ACC, which sees Florida State play up in Boston, Massachusetts, and Syracuse, New York. Florida State wants to compete for national titles, and the SEC provides a better opportunity to do that with the better recruiting grounds they will have access to. Florida State's football tradition also matches the SEC more than it fits the ACC. When Florida State first entered the conference, they dominated the ACC, going 152 from 1987 to 2000, with 11 of the 19 losses during that time period being decided by 7 points or less. They are historically a great program that are hitting their stride once again. Along with that, imagine how much more intense the Florida State rivalry would be if there's a chance to make the SEC title game on the line. It would also be more fun to watch them play the likes of Georgia, Tennessee, Ole Miss, and others every year if they were to make the jump. Back in the 90s, Florida State had the opportunity to join the SEC, but chose to go the ACC route and went on to win 5 national titles. Florida State had spent 30 years trying to join the SEC, but had their bids shut down by Florida during that time period. Jeff Kessock wrote back in 2010, admittedly, the SEC is a very, very tough conference to play in. But looking at the love-hate relationship we've just explored, you do not have to wonder, which is more important to the university, ticket sales or winning in front of an empty house. There's a belief that the SEC schools have a gentleman's agreement to not allow new schools from the same state, but that was proven wrong when the SEC added Texas a few years back, although Texas A&M was against it. The television deal that would result with a team like Florida State joining the SEC would be insane, and I think Florida would be told to follow the lead of the rest of the conference. If that happens, I bet you see the Aggies laughing in the corner, asking, how does it feel? I don't think it's an if for Florida State joining the SEC, but a when. What do you think? Will Florida State join the SEC in the future, and should they? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos right here. Don't forget to leave a like and to subscribe for more college football content. Thank you so much for watching. I could not be more thankful for y'all. You guys make this all possible for me, and as always, remember to embrace the grind.